And welcome back to part 8 of Shin Megami Tensei 3 Nocturne, where today, now we have finally broken into Ikebukuro, we have gained access to the Demon Compendium.
Do you know what the Demon Compendium is? It contains information on all demons in existence, but only those that the reader has made a pact with can be viewed. I see that you have been recruiting many a demon. From now on, use this compendium to your advantage.
Any demon you have previously recruited or fused, you can now retrieve from the compendium. Anytime you change the stats of a demon, or change the skill, basically just change them in any form or fashion, you can register them and overwrite their original placement in the compendium, so then when you bring them back, you bring back that version instead of the old one. The cost of the demon you bring back is dependent on a lot of variables. It's not just health, it's not just level, it's not just MP. It's the entire stat distribution, plus what skills they have. Every skill in the game has a set value. So it will just pick, go through all those skills, work out what value they all are, add them all up, and then it will look at your stats. Every single stat point has a set value, depending on what stat it is and how high up it goes. And then it will, from there, be able to completely work out exactly how much it will cost to resummon an old demon from the compendium. Resummoning or accessing again from the compendium is the biggest thing that will give you complete freedom if you have the marker to do so. Like, you're going to see quite often in this, there'll be points where you'll see me fuse a demon off, and then later on fuse that same demon off again. It's because I got them back out of the compendium so I could use the material they had on them again for something else. But now we've defeated the Matador and made it to Ikebukuro, an entirely optional other dungeon is now available to us. Go to the Amala link, and at the bottom is the Labyrinth of Amala. This is the mega dungeon I've been alluding to throughout the course of the game. This giant optional dungeon that you will be able to work through throughout the course of the entire adventure, with more floors to it becoming accessible as the game goes on. As more fiends are defeated, you'll gain more menorahs. Look, the candelabrums that have like the special names on them, they're called the menorahs, and each menorah will act as a key to access more floors here. The first floor to get access to, you only need one menorah that isn't your own, and that is what you got from Matador. To get into floor 2, you need 2, floor 3, you need 3, to get into floor 4, you need 4, and to get into the final floor, you actually don't need any. If you can even get to the 5th floor, you can do the 5th floor then and there. But every time you gain access to a new floor of the Labyrinth of Amala, make sure to access a peephole there is, because you'll get an exclusive scene. Advancing through the Labyrinth of Amala and clearing the Labyrinth of Amala is what guarantees you the true demon ending, but it is entirely optional if you don't want that ending.
I see you've recovered the menorah from that fiend. I knew that I could count on you, even if the world changed. I believed you would one day learn to wield yourself as a mighty weapon. Here is what my master has to say. It involves the menorah you acquired. For one, it was part of his prized collection. As for its deeper nature, the menorahs are flames of life, which control the flow of Magatsuhi within the Labyrinth of Amala. However, they were stolen by terrible fiends. You see, the menorahs grant their possessors unfettered access to the Labyrinth of Amala. But that privilege is not intended for just anyone. This place is strictly forbidden to all but those whom my master has permitted entry. That is why we would like to ask of you a favor. Is it possible for you to retrieve the menorahs, the flames that light the floors of the labyrinth? And upon doing so, would you return them here? That is my master's request, to recover the 11 menorahs. If you are willing to accept the task, then you will be allowed to enter the Labyrinth of Amala. I believe that is a fair offer, but it is up to you to decide. Will you do it for my master's sake? Thank you. I knew I could depend on you. That is to say, I knew you would accept our offer. The menorahs tend to attract each other. That is why I gave you one. As long as you have your menorah, you will eventually come across the others. When you retrieve a menorah, please place it on the pedestal in the corresponding floor of the labyrinth. I will reward you as you return them to their rightful places. If you hold your menorah to the spinning drum of a mala, the device referred to as a terminal in Tokyo, you will be able to enter and leave here freely. Please be careful. I wish you the best. Preparations are complete. Let us see if our chosen fiend will emerge victorious, if he is the one we have been waiting for.
If you're curious for the story connotations of what the Labyrinth of Amala really is, without going into detail to avoid spoiling things, the further you go through here, the more you're disregarding your humanity and embracing your demonic side. Which is why, throughout the Labyrinth, there will be points where either demons or angelic beings or just souls in general will speak to you and allude to this. You'll get more demons being more talkative to you and more angels being very evasive of you. Because the further you go, the more you're embracing your true demonic power and rejecting your humanity. You're literally doing the opposite of Dante. There's no acceptance of your demonic side alongside your humanity. It's no, fuck my humanity. But when you go through the 11th of Marley, you always go through this little quick little mini game here between floors where you're descending at a rapid pace and you can direct your descent to pick up items or most of the time money. If you see like a glowing white orb, that's an item. And see there, we got 225 marker. If you, on the other side, like turn around and go back through it, you'll do the same minigame again. The difficulty of the minigame depends on what floor you're going to. So in the instance here, I say floors, it's called Kalpas. This is the first Kalpa. For you to get beyond this opening door, you need to give up the first menorah. You need to use Matador's menorah. There's a huge pedestal. Will you use the menorah foundation? Yes, because it's the foundation that will act as the catalyst that allow us to go through the entirety of this area. So it's a symbolic name. A lot of the menorahs do have symbolic names to either the fiend you got it from or what they mean for the dungeon you're going through. The first two Kalpas, I'd say, are likely to take you the longest. Like, the third takes no time at all. The third you get done surprisingly quickly. The fourth one is also pretty chunky, but when you know where you're going, it goes by in a heartbeat, and the fifth one is kind of a similar field as well. Like, the first two, like this one and the second Kalpa, when we get to that much later on, even when you know where you're going, they take a long while. And I like to explore and clear everything out as I go, which is why this video is now 47 minutes long. Maybe even 48, depending on how the editing goes. But the way the Kalpa works in all instances is that your ultimate goal is to just get down to the next Kalpa. Just you're working your way through it, so the further down you're going, the closer to your goal you're going. But it's never as simple as just looking around. The Labyrinth of Amala in the name implies it is a labyrinth, it is a maze. They're not the most convoluted like labyrinths you're ever going to experience, but they are maze-like enough that there is a lot of wrong turns, a lot of one-way doors, which is very cheeky of them. Instances like here where there's just a wall that you can see through, so you can see where you need to be on the other side of it, you just can't get to it, or you have to find another way around. In this instance where you literally just go around it. There's points where you will need keys, like in this instance there's a key on a lower floor that we'll need to take up to these higher floors to help proceed. And now lastly we can talk about the enemies. It is completely impossible to recruit demons in the Labyrinth of Amala. The reason being is because you encounter demons that are from later in the game here. And so to make it so you don't just recruit them and get like a higher level demon kind of early, as much as the game kind of doesn't let you do that anyway, they make it so you just can't recruit at any point. No matter what's going on in the Labyrinth of Amala, you cannot recruit demons. When you come in here, you're coming in here with your team, not some setups. And I'm surprised I still have High Pixie. I think I put High Pixie back in because I wanted to build up some marker to summon back an older demon, because Taraka is what I fused off at the start of the video. And to be honest, I don't keep Taraka for long, because Taraka's more physical focused, and if I can help it, I make it so I'm the only real physical focused one. I know I've said before that physical damage can very much be king in this game, but it doesn't mean you should be entirely reliant on it. Making it so it's just you that's the physical damage dealer and everyone else more magic dealing is a perfectly fine choice, and it's something that I myself will be doing on this playthrough, especially when I get mana refill. Which life refill and mana refill are just your HP or MP will slowly be restored as you walk, but it's a skill you have to have on them, so it's like one of your 8 slots will be mana refill. When I get mana refill, there isn't a single demon in this game I fuse that won't carry it, if I can help it. There's the odd demon I make where they're super physical focused, and so they will refuse to inherit it, because when you're inheriting skills, every skill can only be inherited by some demons. Like, you can't just have like all the best skills in the game on one demon so easily. They need to be inherited from different things in different ways, and some demons will just refuse to have certain skills no matter what you try. Now through the HD remaster, you can just bring up the list of all the skills you want to inherit. This process is a hell of a lot more easier to work out what skills can and can't be inherited, because back in the good old days you usually brought up a guide, because it would pick at random, so you'd have to click on demon 1, click on demon 2, and then see what skills it will try and pick at random to inherit. If it's not the ones you want, you went back, demon 1, demon 2, looked again, didn't like it, then circle XX, circle XX, circle, and then it went on near infinitely. And it's as funny that I'm seeing a lot of people say the same thing. Their total playtime going through Nocturne is a hell of a lot shorter than it ever used to be on the PS2. And it's entirely because you would genuinely spend like 3 or 4 hours at a time doing fusions back in the original version of Nocturne. Because what your demons have are so damn important to your survivability in a Shin Megami Tensei game, that making it so it would pick at random meant you just spent forever until you got exactly what you wanted. And so you'd get like 70 plus playtime hours at the end of your playthrough, even when you know what you're doing, solely because you spent so much of that time fusing, where now you can just pick the skills, you're suddenly cutting that time down drastically. Speaking of cutting, I cut back to Ikebukuro to check out the item shop and get a bit of a heal up as well. Until we do get things like mana refill, making it so you have an easy way to just retreat out of an area is something you should always be trying to keep in mind. Until you can get mana refill where it really doesn't matter so much, don't make endurance tests on you if you can help it. I say that knowing that we're not too far away from the Assembly of Neo, and that dungeon isn't. You can't really help but turn it into an endurance, because it's such a long dungeon and the main terminal is so far away from where you have to go. But that's later on. That won't be for a couple more videos yet. To be fair, in my recordings, I've done 23 videos now. Like, I'm at part 23 in my recording, just to give you an idea of how far ahead I am. But that being said, and now's as good a time as any to mention it as I'm walking around and checking other stuff out and healing up and whatnot. My 5 days a week upload schedule should still maintain, but what time I upload might change soon. I'm not going to go into details, because if it ends up falling through, then it doesn't matter. Like, if it works out the way it's going to be, then I'll talk about it more properly. I might even do an update video just to give you guys a heads up or something. But my scheduling, I might start becoming very busy in the mornings, when usually, because some of you guys know, I do have a job. This isn't my job. I do YouTube for fun. My job is evening shifts, which is why I always do my recordings in the morning. So then when I go to work and do my shift starting at 7 PM, it's fine. Like, I've already done everything I want to do for the day. I wake up and do it. Well, something new might, and as I say, I must stress the keyword might, like there's nothing set in stone yet, and there's a chance it could just fall through, that I might start becoming very busy in the mornings as well. So it will either be mid-afternoon, or just after dinner time at 4 or 5-ish PM UK time. So instead of it being, because my usual target, before Nocturne, my upload schedule was I would do my recording in the morning, set it to upload, and then have it go live at about 2 PM my time. But what I've been doing with Nocturne is I record the videos a day in advance. So this video that you're listening to, I recorded the previous day. I recorded yesterday. I recorded it on Thursday the 3rd, and it will upload on Friday the 4th, that sort of thing. Where in all my previous Let's Plays, I never did that. I'm only doing it so it makes it easier for me to keep on top of the scheduling, editing and whatnot, that I always have like a day gap. So if for whatever reason something falls behind, I can continue working on it even on the day of, because a video has already been uploaded on that day sort of thing. And I unfortunately don't get focused on that level up, but But if what I'm trying to do goes through, it will be later in the day. So I'll try and keep it going like that, but it might be later in the day. And this is something that will mean more to my US viewers than anyone else, because when I do my morning uploads, it's the middle of the night for you guys. So you guys wake up and there's a video good to go. Or like when I used to do it at around 2 PM my time, it was like early morning for you guys, so it was still like at a convenient-ish time. But if those uploads are going to shift and be around 5 PM instead, well, it'll be different more for the US side of things, because it won't be there when you wake up. It might be there after you like been to work yourself or whatever, like that sort of scenario. But I'm going to deter a little bit, because even though we've just got this encounter, right in front of us is a grey door, and it's worth talking about because it's significant to one of the coolest things in this game if you're prepared to do it. Every single time you kill a boss, their gravestone ends up here in the Labyrinth of Amala. These grey doors you can find around it are all the gravestones. Later in the game, there's an item you can get a hold of that will allow you to go to these gravestones and rematch all the old bosses of this game. Every single one of them. There's the 2 gravestones. There's the gravestone of Fornius, and I believe the other one is Troll. Yeah. And with these tombstones, yeah, killed by you-know-who. Yeah, they're killed by demi-fiends, because we are getting more of a... As the game goes on, you get more of a reputation. People start to know of the half-human, half-demon going around killing everything. But if you rematch them, it won't be as simple as you just get to fight them again. Also, there's a Shady Broker. I'll add that to the list, something I'll talk about in a second. Just keep in mind I'll talk about the Shady Broker in a minute. It's not just a matter of rematching them. They will have boosted stats and be reworked. And there will be a stipulant. It will be something along the line of, you only have so many turns to do it, usually. There's a couple other ones, but most of the time it is usually you have to kill the boss in X amount of turns. And if you do it, you'll say, congratulations, you've done it. If you find every single tombstone room in the Labyrinth of Amala and beat the prerequisites of every single boss, you'll gain access to a unique room where Izanagi and Izanami will be waiting for you. And they will reward you for your efforts. It's not a fight. You're not fighting Izanagi and Izanami. It's not anything like that. They will just give you a reward. That reward is an extra press turn. A permanent extra press turn. So even if you're on your own, you'll have 2 press turns. If a full team of 4, you start your fight with 5 press turns instead of 4. It's such a simple reward, but it's an amazing reward, and it's something that I cannot stress enough is an absolutely legendary reward to have. But that Shady Broker... Also, now I've got another thing to talk about, because the demonic soul here is another thing that I'll need to talk about, because they're actually really helpful. The Shady Broker, when you reach certain levels in the game, the Shady Broker will straight up sell you demons. And they're demons that are usually a bit more ahead of the curve of what you'll have. Like the one he'll sell you here, I believe will make areas light up. Like instead of having to use a light ball, it will make it so it can make areas shine brightly. And I think can also make it so you can deactivate floor hazards. But don't quote me on that, because I haven't actually got the demon. The second one, however, is one you're likely to want to get. The second one, and there's another thing I need to talk about, because it's keeping up with what I need to talk about in this game is a chore sometimes, but this is the puzzle of the room here, but I'll get to that in a second. But the second demon is one you're probably going to want to get, because he gives you Mediarahan, which is tier 3 healing magic, and the fact that you can get it that early is kind of wild. But nextly is that demonic soul. If you're not following a guide or anything of the sort, and you're trying to track down the fiends, every time you clear a new dungeon or do a new plot thing, return to the Labyrinth of Amala, talk to that soul. Like, tell the soul you're a demon, and it will tell you or give you a strong hint as to where the next fiend is for you to track down. Because as I've said before, Matador is the only true mandatory fiend you're encountering in the game. Every single other one you have to track down and find yourself. And so, if you're struggling to find one, after every, let's say literally after every single either very big plot event or every dungeon you beat, return and talk, and she'll either tell you, oh, there's none that have shown up yet, which if that's the case, just do more of the game. Or she will say, oh, there's sightings of or hearings of one in this area or one in this space, and then you know where to go and start looking around. There is a exception to this part though. Once you've taken down the third fiend and do the entire and gain access to the second floor, come here and do the whole second floor first and enter the third floor. Because otherwise the next round of fiends will not spawn, because once you enter the third floor there's a cutscene that involves them, of all of them introducing themselves to you, and then you have to go find them. If you're just trying to do the old-fashioned, I'm just going to wait till I've done them all and then do the whole labyrinth in one go, you'll become stuck very quickly because you won't be able to progress any further after the third fiend. And nextly, that's the main puzzle. In almost every floor, there's a main gimmick or puzzle of how it works. In this one, there is a main room where there are trap floors everywhere. Also, this enemy has last resort, which really fucking sucks because it's a self-destruct blow up, and it hurts. It hurts a lot. As I'm nearly dead. And I completely forgot what you're supposed to do to be able to work out what floors are dangerous and what ones aren't. So I just run through it normally and try and feel it out, which to be fair works, but you shouldn't do it consistently. And also over here is a shady surgeon, which is another thing I need to talk about because the Labyrinth of Amala is absolutely teeming with new things and mechanics. It's kind of ridiculous. Yeah, there's another one we've yet to even show up that's later on. Anyway, the gimmick of this floor, if you're trying to work it out yourself and want to just get through it quickly, pay attention to the ceiling. If there isn't a ceiling light above a panel, that means it's a trap floor. So if there's like a light directly above a tile, that's fine to stand on. If it's just black above it, don't stand on it. But you can see as we walk around, these light tiles directly above us. If there's everyone that's just got a black spot on it, it means it's a trap floor. And that's what you're looking for. And I just forgot. And so I wasn't even looking up to notice it. And you'll see when I go through it, you can see when I'm about to step on one. But I just didn't spot it, and so it's just something that I got caught on. The Shady Surgeon is your way of being able to stay in here comfortably and consistently with decent MP. The Shady Surgeon, for a fee, will fully restore your health and MP party-wide. And the reason why it's around 2,000 marker and not like 40 like it's a Fountain of Life is secondly, it's in the middle of a dungeon, so it's more of a risk. And secondly, he will just do it for the entire party, not just your active, but who's also in your backup. So if you have like an entire set and you're like a madman mastermind who's like got every single demon has a purpose and you're alternating between all of them like Yu-Gi-Oh cards, you're gonna really appreciate that, because it will probably work out slightly cheaper than just getting them all through the Fountain of Life later. The price will increase as it goes on. When you get to say the third Kalpa, it goes up from 2,000 marker to 5,000 marker. But that's because, trust me when I say this, by the time you get to that point in the game, money becomes a lot less of a hassle. And so spending 5,000 like that really won't be a second thought. And the last mechanic of significance in the Labyrinth of Amala that I can bring up before it shows up for once today is in 1 or 2 spots per dungeon, well, say dungeon, floor, or Kalpa of the Labyrinth of Amala, there will be a point where you'll find like a pinkish soul where it's 2 of them sitting around a table and they will offer you a drink for 500 marker. If you accept the drink, it's alcoholic, they get you wasted, take a bit more money than 500. They usually take around 2 to 3,000. They take a bit more later in the game, but on average it's around 2 to 3,000. But then they take you out the dungeon. They'll take you back to the very top where the main terminal is for you to get out. So it's essentially 2,000 odd MP to leave. Not MP, marker to leave. And so even though like the game tries to treat it as like a wink, as like, oh, you've been conned because they got you drunk and stole some of your money. No, it's a ticket out of jail. If you need to, like, if you're in a real dangerous spot and you need to get out of the dungeon, like, immediately, going to them and spending that bit of money is more than worth it because they will take you to the door. They get your ass drunk and take you home. Like, they're actually kind of good in that sense. You just spend a bit more money than you was expecting. But proceeding onwards, be careful when you go to the next floor down from here. Because down here are stronger enemies than what you'll be used to, including this. This enemy here, the Sati, her level is like level 40 something. We're not level 40 something. So you're going to see, she's a threat. She's quite a big one too. Because I completely forgot that she was that high of a level, so I'm like, oh, it's okay. Miragi dying, tier 3 fire comes my way, Pixie's dead, Uzume's in bad shape, everyone's in trouble. And I was like, uh-oh! So I immediately just used, but this is something that also kind of shows the merits of SMT as a whole. That through stat nurse, I can make it so I can still stand a chance against this thing, despite how dangerous it really is. And I got lucky there and it missed. So you're going to see, as soon as this fight ends, I U-turn. Because it's like, no, I'm going to get out of here and heal first. If you're ever out of revival beads, the Fountain of Life can resurrect demons as well. The only thing worth mentioning is that the cost is 400 marker. And it's so in turn, it's usually cheaper to get a revival bead and then just use that. Usually. Especially if you're spending a lot of time in the jewel shop, like you're getting a lot of jewels and gems like pearls or diamonds, etc. If you get a lot of them, they can be, you can just go there and get bombs of life for trades, and bombs of life, as I've said before, are complete full restores and not just pickups, which the revival beads are. But I managed to get Rakakaja as well. The Kajas are stat boosters, and as the game goes on, the stat boosters will start to become not majorly, but slightly more valuable than the stat nerfers. Because being able to boost yourself is harder for the enemy to challenge more often than not, or they usually don't have a skill to challenge it as often as they do the Kunda skills. Because even if they don't have a skill to remove all nerfs, they will have a skill to boost their stats to try and counter it. But anyway, as on my way back, I fuse Unicorn, which Unicorn was actually the demon I was talking about in the Matador fight that I was saying when I fused Uzume on my very, very first playthrough, I got a fusion accident and got a stronger demon. I got Unicorn. I was mistaken. I thought I got the Thunder Sheep that started with like X and like, it was like Easy Arms or whatever its name is. No, I looked back on my original save because I kept Unicorn around. I kept that demon around and I was like, oh no, it was Unicorn I got, not the Zahal, or I never remember what it's called. It's a sheep like that's like a ginormous horn, and its name starts with an X. I'll point it out when it pops up, because I do get it eventually later in the game. But either way, I fuse Unicorn, and later on, I think I buy back Uzume and have Uzume replace Hypixie, because Hypixie, when it was that little pixie we got at the very start of the game, is very much running out of her worth. Especially after she lost Dia. Because at least with like Dia, there was a chance it could have been transformed into Medea if I got lucky after a level up and it said, a skill wants to be changed, and I got it from that. I didn't, I got something far bloody worse to replace it, but I could have got lucky, which is why I went for that risk anyway, even if it completely bit me in the arse. You're going to see me like stop and check the map a lot as well. Mostly just because I have the labyrinth-like nature. It's best to keep on bringing up where I am, and it also works out for you guys, if any of you are following along, that you can see whereabouts I am. Not that I would really recommend it too much, especially with the third Kalpa. I'll talk about it now, but I'll talk about it properly when we get there. The third Kalpa, when you enter it, there's 3 doors, and you can't enter them unless one of your stats is above 15. Like, one of them is a strength door, so your strength needs to be at least 15 to enter it. One of them's a luck door, same deal luck, and the last one's magic, same deal for magic. But anyway, we get counter, which is an amazing skill to have, which you're probably only going to replace with stronger versions of counter, like retaliate later. Counter is every time you're hit with a physical attack, there's a 10% chance you'll auto-retaliate and smack him around the chin. And there's a surprisingly large number of times that will kill. Sure, I'll let it continue. Fully recovered. And you'll notice on this first Magatama, that last skill is just a question mark. It doesn't tell you what it is. That's because you physically cannot get it until you have completely cleared the Labyrinth of Amala. There are 2 significant rewards for clearing the entirety of the Labyrinth of Amala. The first one is access to the true ending and true final boss. The second is a unique skill and the final skill of the first Magatama. That skill is called Pierce. And I cannot stress enough how much of a godsend it is. Pierce is hands down the best skill in the game. It makes it so all physical attacks will ignore resistances.
Are you sure?
So, when you encounter enemies, it's like strong against electricity, strong against ice, strong against physical, strong against whatever. Doesn't give a shit. You'll punch through it. Like, Pierce is so helpful. Like, it basically treats the enemy like they don't have defense. Like, they don't have a resistance or defense towards those attacks. And so Pierce is amazing to have, but you can only really get it for you and Raido if you're playing Chronicles. I've heard that they've updated it so Dante can get Pierce as well in this remaster, but he needs, because my goodness, he needs it. He's not the strongest if you get him on your team. He's not as good as he should be. Like, he's good, but he won't carry you. But you can get it on him, and if you want it on any of your demons, you're committing to the long haul, because you need to be level 95. Yes, 95. Because you need to fuse a demon, a very specific demon of Holy Order, because there's a door in the 5th Kalpa that will only open if you have a demon on you that is of that severity of holiness. And when it opens, inside it, you will be granted the ability to put Pierce on a demon. And from there, you can then fuse it into other things going forward. The 5th Kalpa is also the ultimate reward of why I stress keep Pixie. Will come into play. Because essentially in the 5th Kalpa, there's a whole bunch of doors and all of them will have prerequisites. Also, there's me stepping on a shadow tile and falling down again. And all the if you can fulfill a prerequisite, the reward on the other side is always worth it. Like, for the one that I'm always talking about is that there is a door that when you go to it says, this door will only open if you showcase a demon that has always been with you. Like a demon that's been with you the longest, or your most loyal ally. It means present Pixie. Anyway, here's the 2 souls that get you drunk and take you home, just to showcase them. So your wallet feels really light. That's just the game telling you they took a couple grand more than you thought, and they kick you back here, right back up to the top floor where there aren't any encounters. So back down I go. Now this time, I'm paying a little bit more attention. I still haven't remembered that it's the light on the ceiling that give it away. So I'm just telling you, so if you're following along, you can work your way through here quicker. Because there's actually a hint that you can get. Like, when you're in the damage floor at the bottom, there's a soul you can find in the corner, and if you talk to them, they'll say, give us a small amount of money, I'll give you a hint. And if you say it, they'll just say, pay attention to the ceiling. And then it will click when you go up. It's like, oh, the lights are out in certain spots. Great, got it. Which I do showcase as well, because like I said, I just forgot. So when I saw that hint, I went, screw it. So if I forgot, there'll be someone who just straight up doesn't know and doesn't realize. Because now I've said it, it's obvious. If you're not thinking about it, you really won't notice it. But you can also follow the path around and get down here the safe way instead of having to break around it. And go the intended path or through that door, which will then take you up and round, and then from there, you can find your way through to the last real room of significance, because in that room is the key you need to open the last few doors that we've seen around the place and get your way forward to the next Kalpa. Most of the Kalpas are designed in a way that if you're going straight from the entrance to the next Kalpa after you're done, it barely takes any time at all. But on your first visit, it takes a long-ass time. Or here's me falling for a trap floor again, because I just didn't spot the dark bit. And here's the point where I push to go to the back corner and encounter some new enemies down here. That mill enemy there, fuck that guy. That enemy, even if you play Persona, you know why that enemy sucks. It will reflect physical. If you punch it, it will punch you and it won't take you damage. It will just hit you back and you will lose all your press turns because it's reflecting. It will reflect fire and ice as well, but it's weak to electricity and wind. So you need to be zapping or blowing at it, because not everything else will just come back at you. Also, it blocks it, it doesn't reflect. Oh, and unfortunately, Demi-Fiend is confused, so I can't get a good attack off. And so eventually I bait trying to retreat, but I get spotted. That's what a failed runaway works. When you do a failed runaway, it runs like a number check on the enemies. And if any of them pass a number, they will just call you out. And then they will stop you. So it will kind of like run past every enemy and go yes or no. If any of them say yes, they'll stop you. But the more you out-level them, and I think your luck has something to do with it as well, but don't quote me on that. I've never really looked into it too much. Because I don't run away from fights that often in this game. But after it runs that check, the more you out-level them, the more it tends to work out in your favor. And you're more likely to run away. So if you're in an area where it's all like weak enemies, you don't have to stress about it. I pushed for the attack there because I didn't want to waste any more MP. So I was like, you know what, I can just have Uzume do it later. Oh, and I've replaced Hypixie. When I went back and picked up Uzume from the compendium, I replaced Hypixie. So Hypixie's now benched for the rest of the game. But be wary of this damage floor. It's not the worst, but if you're not paying attention to it, it'll creep up on you. There's a damage space later on. It's in the second Kalpa. It's an optional path in there. Where it straight up halves your current health every time. Like wherever your health is at that point, it will halve it. So if it's 200, it becomes 100, then 50, then 25, then 12. Because it will always round down. But here's the soul I was on about. It says, give you some marker, it'll tell you what he knows. You gave him 2,000 marker. Next time you're on the floor, pay attention to the ceiling. You're on the floor above, pay attention to the ceiling. There's your big hint. Ow. 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 You miss those float balls when you don't have them. But yeah, if you thought I was going to be progressing in the main game today, you're unfortunately mistaken. In almost every instance, when I unlock a new Kalpa, I beeline straight to it and do it all as soon as I can, but they will almost always take up a whole video each. So the whole first Kalpa is going to be a video, which is why it's so long. When we unlock the second Kalpa, that will be a whole video, and I think that one will end up being longer, because like I said, the first two take a long while. It's the third one that's really short, mostly because it's pretty linear after that first opening bit or pick a door you can open. When the reason why I make that point of mentioning it is that what stats you push for, because you might go for an all magic build, and so the door I opened won't be the door you can open. And it's things like that. Like there'll be a lot of points where you might take a different path than I have. If you made like a luck build, which I think is suicide, this isn't Dark Souls, luck is not on your side in this game, and making a luck build will only just bait the inevitable. But if you do decide to go that way, you might open a different door than I opened. Obviously, I'll be opening the strength door, because if you've seen my strength stat, I put very little into my magic, and I especially don't put anything into my luck, because I find it to be a pretty worthless stat as a whole. Like, it has its merits, don't get me wrong, just there's a reason why the final Magatama of the game boosts every stat by 10 but luck. It's because luck's pointless. Like, luck really doesn't matter. But now you're going to see me kind of glance up, and so now I'm seeing the shadows in the ceiling. You can actually be kind of cheeky with it and go diagonal between two shadow spots if you're very, very precise on your movements. So like you can, for instance, get into that corner over there if you want to. I just follow the path and do it normally. But if you're very particular on your positioning and like just barely squeeze through gaps and whatnot, because you can make the camera, because the camera, as I've mentioned before, will base it on the 4 compass points and then the diagonals in between. Like, it's not a complete free-flowing 360 camera. It's always, like, when you hold circle, the bumpers make it so it always goes from north to east to south to west, and all the other way around if it's the L1 instead. But if you spin the camera normally, and then let it go, it will autocorrect to the nearest 45 degree. Which is what you see every time I let go of the camera and start moving. It always autocorrects to the closest 45. But in here is a mystical chest, which gave me a luck incense, which is kind of humorous after I was just saying how worthless luck incense is. But that was just how the luck I got, I suppose. That I got a free luck point. And opposite it is a Cache Cube with a Death Stone. The Death Stone is the very last thing of significance in here, and it's to do with fusing. When I introduced fusing, I dropped that Death Stone is something of significance. The fiends you encounter in the game after you kill them can be fused. However, you spend the Death Stone to do so. Pressing this switch will unlock those doors that was previously mentioned to allow you to proceed forwards, and will also unlock the door to the second Kalpa, allowing us to completely advance out of here once we're done. But yeah, once you... Like, for instance, now we've beat Matador, if we get the right demons and fuse Matador, it will say a Death Stone has lost its glimmer. If you fuse Matador again, it won't spend a Death Stone, another Death Stone for it. You can get away with that in that sense, which is very helpful and something you should be making the most of. Now my strength has hit 25, I hold off upgrading it any further for just the time being. Like, it's not a major thing, it's just for now I hold off. Because it's like, I know I don't need to push too much, but I know that's only 25 because of the 5 points extra. So I'm actually at 20, so I'm still 10 short of where I want to be at the end. And there's a door in the Mantra HQ to open to jump ahead a little bit that will not open unless your raw strength is 25. Not with a Magatama, your raw stat is 25. So I will be working towards that as well. But now I've hit 20, I do take a bit of a pauser because I know my strength is just fine. But as we reach now the end of the first Kalpa finally and break into the second. But yeah, as the game goes on, we would pick up more Death Stones. I would highly recommend don't spend your first Death Stone on Matador. Wait until we get the second Fiend and push to make that one instead. Because the second theme of the game, which I'll talk about when we get to it, is straight up one of the best demons in the game to just have for support. It's the best supporting demons in the game. But anyway, we got a cutscene.
I see that you have braved the Labyrinth of Amala and returned a menorah. I am confident that you will recover the remaining ones too. You must be cautious though. The fiends that stole the menorahs are unique and extraordinarily powerful. Now that I think about it, this all started because of one man who caused the conception in the previous world. The conception. Because of it, the Vortex world was born. And Kagutsuchi is the source of power that illuminates this world. You, who once lived as a human, must be wandering this world without any understanding. To show you my appreciation for returning the menorah, I would like to share with you my knowledge of the Vortex world, starting with Kagutsuchi. Kagutsuchi is the light whose sole purpose is to empower the one who will oversee creation. Creation is the act of bringing a new world into existence, made possible by the annihilation of the old world. Kagutsuchi will then allow a life form of its choosing to determine the course of the new world. There must be those in Tokyo who yearn to be chosen by Kagutsuchi in order to realize their vision. The shape of the world to come depends on who is chosen and what their reason is. In the vast Amala universe, this Vortex world is not the only place where creation occurs. Kagutsuchi rises, matures, and falls in countless other places. There are millions, billions of worlds that you are unaware of, and they all experience the cycle of death and rebirth. That is the way of Amala, as determined by the Great Will. With my master, I have watched how myriads of worlds came into being, how life prospered in those worlds, and how they were destroyed in the end. All that time, seeking the answer to the unanswerable question, why is a world reborn? But now, we may be on the verge of finding the answer, and it is your actions which hold the key. Please retrieve the remaining menorahs as soon as possible, and then return to us. My master has high hopes for you. The fallen angel has bestowed upon you great strength. Do not lose your life and let this gift be in vain.
One of my favorite things about your advancement through the Labyrinth of Amala is that every time you get to a new floor, you get this new cutscene where the lady in black with the old gentleman will talk to you about the lore of the world, about the lore of the Shin Megami Tensei universe. There are so many little things you will learn that you will only learn through here. And it was something that, in the original release of this game, when you think this dungeon didn't exist, because it was something that was added in Maniacs, felt like so much of a necessity coming back, because there's so much you have to just kind of work out for yourself. So having a dedicated lore room, so to speak, I can imagine it was a godsend, and having this extra dungeon, which is just that. But now we're going to the second floor. The second Kalpa's drop is this one, which is a bit more dangerous and a bit more aggressive, but there's more marker in it for you. You can survive it. So we got about 200 more than normal. But now we enter the second Kalpa, and you can see there are 2 pedestals there at the front now instead of just 1. We cannot proceed any further than this, because we need the next 2 fiends. But when you enter this room, Patrick Sykes, a noble voice will talk to you.
Fallen angel, do you know what cause you serve? Do you realize which path your actions are leading you down? I have watched your every move from above. You have been seduced by darkness. Now, you are about to defy God's will. To the one with a demon's body and a human heart, heed my warning. End your dealings with the fallen angel before your heart is consumed by darkness. Woe unto you, for you can no longer discern good from evil. In this land where demons of chaos dwell, the last of your humanity will eventually be lost. I pray that you return to your world and rid yourself of darkness before it is too late, before God's vengeance strikes this cursed land.
Slight deterrence, but yeah, that's the angel that represents God telling you that you're becoming more demonic by going through here, so walk away while you can. But one of my favorite little things, and it's just a stupid joke that the community of SMT made forever ago, is that the noble voice calls you by name. Like for us, it said Demi Fiend. If you call yourself "fuck you" in all caps, it will just come up saying "noble voice says fuck you." And it's something that's just stuck around on the internet and stuck around in like the SMT community. It's like a meme for a while. And as I say, for a while, for like a number of years, and it never doesn't make me giggle when it's just a zoom in of noble voice, fuck you. Anyway, next time on SMT, we're actually going to go to the Mantra HQ properly, but until then, take care.